Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Event Icons. Today, we're going to be talking about sustainable events. You know them, you love them, you want some more of them, and specifically now, there are awards for them. So we're going to be talking with the folks behind the Event Sustainability Awards, and we'll be doing that in just 1 minute.
It's Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, so you know what that means. It's time for another episode of #Event Icons.
Presented by Endless Events.
The show where you get to ask the icons of the events industry anything.
Just go to www.event-icons.com to ask questions.
Our iconic guests will answer them live during the entire show. Before we get started, the more people we have watching, the better the conversation. So please help share #Event Icons
on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Just tell your friends to watch at www.event-icons.com.
Now, without any further delay, this is #Event Icons.
All right, I pretty much butchered that introduction, but now we get the chance to do it for real. We're being joined today by Adam Parry, who is, you might know him from Event Industry News as well as the Event Tech Live Awards. Today we're going to be talking to him about their newer endeavor, the Sustainable Event Awards. If you hadn't had a chance to hear Adam, he's been one of our live guests on Event Icons, passing through probably I'm one of the IMAXs as we were doing a live one. If you haven't had a chance to meet Adam, you should, first of all. And also, he is the co-founder and editor of the event industry's global online magazine, Event Industry News, as mentioned previously. An avid technology evangelist, he couples his 10 plus years of experience in the event industry with his passion for the latest tech trends to co-create Event Tech Live, Europe's only show dedicated to event technology. On top of this, he's also the co-organizer of the Event Technology Awards, a world-renowned awards scheme showcasing the very best in event technology. And if you haven't had a chance, be sure and stop over and check out the archives of our sister podcast, the Event Tech Podcast, where we talked to Adam. Right, it was not too long before you guys ran your last edition of the Event Technology Awards, if I remember correctly, or Event Tech Live.
That's right. It was right around that time, actually. I can remember it vividly, although it was quite a while ago already, right?
Yeah. Time flies when we're having fun. So let's go a little bit into the history, because as we were talking about before the show, you know, this isn't your first, you didn't just wake up yesterday and go, sustainable events, yay. You know, this is something that's been, you know, part of your background, part of, you know, how you've shaped your own events. So let's talk a little bit about kind of the history of Event Tech Live, the Event Technology Awards, and what has driven you toward this new Sustainable Event Awards.
Yeah, sure. So we launched Event Tech Live 7 or 8 years ago. But previous to that, we'd actually been out on a familiarization trip as part of Event Industry News to a new exhibition hall opening in Taiwan. And as part of that, we got toured around a number of exhibition organizers and a number of live shows, which was great to see how that region and those organizers put their events on. One of the things that struck me and my business partner, Paul, was actually how there was no carpet used actually on the show floors of the exhibition hall. It was quite widely accepted that, you know, it wasn't worth the waste and the impact that carpet brought to it. And the exhibition halls themselves, the exhibition venues, actually did a really good job at making sure that those show floors just looked great, to be fair. So we started talking to them a little bit more about their approach to sustainability, why they chose not to have, obviously, the show floor carpets, etc. And that resonated with us when we came back and eventually launched Event Tech Live. We took that same approach. We took the approach that actually the venue that we use, the Old Truman Brewery, has a great floor. It's an industrial looking and feeling venue anyway, so you know, a slight rough around the edges floor we could get away with, shall we say. But we took the viewpoint that if we could not have to use carpet across the show floor, not only would we be a sustainable business practice for us as an organization, but we would also not have the impact then having to recycle, reuse, or bring that carpet in. And that kind of started us really kind of thinking about other sustainable practices we could do with EventTech Live. Up until most recently, we actually partnered with an organization here in the UK called Energy Revolution. They started out in the festival sector, working predominantly with festivals on reduction, recycling, reuse around energy, travel, water, waste, etc. And now they're moving more into the corporate and exhibition world. And really, we partnered with them to help not only us offset the travel of our visitors, but also work with our main contractors and exhibitors as well, and encourage them to do the same. So there's a number of different things we do through EventTech Live, but that's just a couple of them there.
It's always amazing to me the more that I learn about, kind of best practices in sustainability and events, how much we just take for granted and don't think about. And that I honestly, until we started talking, hadn't really given a lot of thought to things like carpet on an expo floor. But it's an enormous waste. I mean, it's sometimes you're able to reuse it to a certain extent, but I 100% have seen, just rolls and rolls and rolls of carpet being thrown away. Am I remembering correctly that there's a little bit of a cultural and practices depending on where you are in the world on using carpets and things like that? I can't remember if we talked about that in the pre-show or if or just now.
Yeah, so like I said, when we went out to Taiwan, culturally, they don't necessarily put that carpet down. I totally get it. And let's be fair to those companies that do supply carpets to organizers. They do quite a lot to ensure that material that's used to manufacture those carpets generally actually comes like 99% from carpets that have been recycled already from other shows and stuff like that. And obviously, as an organizer, you may have a show that you need to designate certain areas, and carpet's a great way to do that. You can use color coordinated carpets to zone areas off, and that gives the attendee a very visual point of view of where they are within the show. So there are reasons to use carpet. We didn't have that as a show organizer, so we took the stance that we didn't need to use that. So therefore, we're not having carpet manufactured or delivered to the show. There's a logistic element there. There's an impact of getting that to the show floor. There's even staff that have to come in and fit that, so they have to be brought to the venue, etc. And then there's the recycling or removal and waste side of things when it comes to. So we didn't do any firm calculations. We didn't look into the impact of that. We just took it as gut that it's better for us not to have, and that's the best thing. That there is no impact if we don't have it.
Well, exactly. I mean, and when you've got a venue like the Old Truman Brewery, like you said, where it's got got good floors, it's kind of a no-brainer. It does kind of make me wonder a little bit, if as we see much more of a shift towards green meetings, towards sustainability, if venues will start to take notice of that, and start actually keeping their floors in better shapes, or just automatically. I was actually just in a renovated expo hall that was already pre-carpeted, and that they just were going to take for granted that we're going to have our carpet down, and that's the way that it is. Now you're going to have greater investments in repair and replacement and all that kind of thing, but in the long run, it's going to be a lot less expensive and a lot, like you say, less impact with all the delivery and the materials and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think if I was to say that one thing that is just the thing to overcome with exhibition halls is obviously the marking out, right? Chalk, paint, whatever else is used by contractors to mark out. And sometimes, you're marking out shows over shows because of the turnaround time, because of occupancy. And then there's obviously those markings on the floor. So if there could be a material used that's easy to get rid of or to clean, or a simple way of doing that, then I think that would bring, we've just been to the Excel Centre here in London in the UK for a large trade show a couple of weeks ago for an industry trade show, and we actually walked around as part of the show floor, and it was in a really good state, but there was just those slight markings here and there which an organizer probably would want to cover up for their attendees.
All right. Well, I imagine it's more than just carpet
Yeah.
that you guys have been doing stuff with. I mean, I could talk about carpet all day long.
Yeah.
But so, what are some of the other things that before we move into the sustainability awards? What are some of the other things that you're doing with Event Tech Live and with the original Event Tech awards that also have kind of contributed to this mindset of sustainability?
Yeah, so we're a small organizer, I'd say that. So our opportunity, our bandwidth to do things is somewhat smaller. We only do that one show as well. So we've got one cycle of the event before we get around to, to trying out new things. One thing that we do is we try and encourage, especially our international customers, to all use a similar logistics company that we have. That enables less impact from those items coming from the inbound point to the venue. We don't have to have lots of trucks and vehicles and things like that, especially in London, impacting the community around there. We supply water points all around the show and encourage our visitors to bring their own containers with them to be able to take from that, rather than going to the caterer and using plastic bottles and then having to deal with those in waste. We have obviously a waste recycling program on site, both for contractors and visitors. And then that even filters down to some of the sponsorship opportunities that we might offer. We regularly get asked, can we do the bag giveaways? Can we have a branded bag giveaway? And that's something we've been super resistant to, in terms of, we don't want to necessarily have that, knowing that the likelihood is those bags are not going to get reused for anything else. They're going to get taken home by the attendee and then, kind of just shelved or recycled, hopefully, or even worse, just thrown in the trash and stuff. So, even our sponsorship opportunities, we tend to focus more on kind of digital elements that also can be tracked and obviously provide more value. Then from branding for the event, we very rarely try and avoid to dating anything that we have on the show. So I think our main entrance branding, this will be like the third or fourth year that we'll have been using that particular branding. So it's just little things like that we kind of feed through the show and add to each year, that hopefully again has those tiny incremental impact, but reduction in impact, that makes us a little bit more sustainable as an organizer.
So you've been doing Event Tech Live for a few years now.
7
years, okay. And then the Event Technology Awards for how long?
1 more year longer, okay. So 8.
Okay, yeah. All right. So you've been doing that a while. What made you decide that there needed to be another awards show in the world? And then what made you decide ultimately on sustainability as being kind of the core of it?
Sure. So, for the last 7 or 8 years, we have focused on just those two things, the Event Technology Awards and Event Tech Live, when it comes to the event side of things. Want to make sure that we do them really well and we get to them to the point. So we're only a small team, like I said before, and we wanted to make sure that all our hands were on that to make sure that it was the best that it could be. Through those 7 years, and also through Event Industry News, obviously we've been very aware of other suppliers, organizers, venues doing sustainable things, trying to do their own reduction. It's something that we cover on an ongoing basis on Event Industry News, and there are accreditations out there. There are ISOs. There are other things that organizations can get. However, the feedback to us has been very much so that some of those accreditations are quite hard to achieve and also quite intensive in order to maintain, and maybe even only achievable for some of the larger organizations that have got the bandwidth, the manpower and the cash to kind of invest in getting those accreditations. And as when we launched the Event Technology Awards, we felt that the same was happening for sustainability, that there was nowhere really for the industry to get the recognition within their field, within their supply, and within a fair gauge of their supply as well, of what they were doing as individuals, as suppliers, as venues, and even as organizers. So that was one of the main drivers for us to launch the Sustainability Awards, was to give a platform for those three verticals to get the recognition they deserve. Second to that, and probably more importantly actually, was to give the wider industry a place to come and learn about what the industry was doing from a sustainability point. So, if they're a venue, they can look at the other venue categories and see what those venues were doing and why they won that award. What measurement did they measures did they put in place to make their venue more sustainable? Same with caterers, same with logistic companies, same with organisers. The idea of the awards is actually to create more awareness in the industry around those large and small sustainable practices that can be adopted and therefore make you more sustainable as well. So those were the kind of two core reasons.
And I think that's one of the kind of the tricky bits is finding a way to balance, large companies being able to easily implement things versus small companies where it might be a bit more of a challenge, because sometimes it's easier for some companies and platforms than others to just throw money at a problem and say, yay, we're sustainable, or something like that, versus someone who's really got a core as part of their core values. How do you kind of help help not just help the little guy, but help all of the potential category winners really show that this is something that's truly important to us. This is something that's core to our values. This is something that we're not just paying lip service to, maybe is a better way of putting it.
Yeah, sure. So I think there's a couple of different areas, and this is an ongoing process even while we've launched these awards and the entry process is about to open. So the first thing is the categories. We made sure that the categories represented that as well. So let's take venues. There's categories for venues over a certain size, and then there's categories for venues under a certain size as well. So that allows them to, if you want to say, compete within a fair kind of standard. They're not going, a small venue isn't going up at, let's say, like a large exhibition hall, which, like you said, Brandt, has maybe more money, more availability of staff, more to throw at it. And from our criteria, one of the important things that we've already identified is, obviously it's going to be about measurement, and it's going to be about people, providing us the information to show that they have had a positive impact. But that's not necessarily going to be the largest number. That's not going to be the person who's made the biggest reduction overall. It might be the individual organisation, supplier or organiser that's actually made the biggest contribution percentage-wise based on the size of their business and the size of their event and the size of their venue. So we've been very careful, when we're coming up with these criteria, and it's still an ongoing process. We're currently talking to a couple of industry bodies and a number of other people to make sure this criteria is impactful and fair, and just as well, which will be an ongoing process as we kind of evolve the awards over the years. But been very careful to make sure that the criteria is fair to everybody that enters and gives them a fair crack at, obviously, hopefully winning an award.
I'm looking through the categories right now, and then it's quite a large number of them. And like you say, there's a nice mix of, over this amount, under this amount, different types of venues, historic venues, party venues, theaters, stadiums, weddings. How do you, and this is maybe a larger, broader question for awards shows in general, for both of your shows, how do you find the balance between, there's so many categories that everybody wins one of them, to really making sure that there's some good competition in each of them. I know you said it's an ongoing process, but now 8 years in, you've got to have some, hopefully, insights into how to narrow that down.
Yeah, the shortlisting process, and you rely on your judges. So there's obviously, as an organisation, there's a shortlisting process which identifies outliers, people who haven't, let's say, followed the rules, or maybe even just made that mistake of they've entered within a time period that's outside of the time period that you've given. On this particular awards, that there are actually quite a few more than we have on, let's say, the Event Technology Awards. I think there's nearly double. But when you actually take something like sustainability, and then you start to apply that to, actually giving people a fair chance within their field, then you do end up coming up with, I think we've got in the region of shy of 60 or something. Any less than that, if you actually start combining all of those venues together, when you look at them as individual businesses, then it actually becomes very hard to compete for some of those people within, let's say we just had one venue category, then it becomes super hard for those to get recognition against their peers. And you're almost paying lip service to the fact that you just kind of throwing a few categories up, and let's say you're the best venue, the best organizer, the best AV company, and the best tech company. And it's like, you can't really get a fair comparison. You can't get a fair, I don't think as a supplier or an organizer, you can't get a fair judgment from those that are judging it.
Well, and that does open it up to some other interesting categories that, again, I might not have thought of off the top of my head. Things like the best plant hire, the best sustainable flooring, best power company. That's so much broader, or more specific, depending on how you look at it, than best AV supplier or something, best decor or something along those lines. Really giving an opportunity again for those individual suppliers to have a chance to shine at the thing that they're good at.
Yeah, and I come at it as well from the slight angle that as an organizer, I have a huge number of suppliers coming into my show to make that possible, from power to Wi-Fi to decor to catering to lighting to sound, to registration staff, you name it. We all know the supply chain. When you look at the contractors coming into your show, it's quite extensive, and the larger your show grows, the more that is. So when it comes to actually from me looking at my suppliers and going, okay, so if I can use a sustainable supplier, then by proxy, that makes me just that little bit more sustainable, right? So again, that's where we've come up with these categories, is hopefully at some point it might be that shopping list for somebody to go, right, I just want to use all the best sustainable companies. I'm going to make the investment. It's not about cost. I mean, we might be living in a bit of a utopian world here right now, but at least somebody's got that list of companies to go to that have either won awards or been shortlisted, that they can go and talk about their service supply. And you have to kind of break that down in order to get, I suppose, that shopping list.
Well, and I mean, that's the nice thing about this kind of thing, is now if you are wanting to, bring in plants, or, all of these various things, like you say, you've now got this list of vendors that you can go to do each and every one of these things. And depending on the different types of events that you've got, whether it's just a straight up, roadshow event, or, just going to lean more towards a marketing event or something along those lines, or maybe that changes throughout the year. You've kind of got a category for everything. I don't know if there's one that you can share off the top of your head. Is there one that you kind of had in place and then decided that doesn't make the cut? You probably don't want to single anybody out in a bad way.
The one that doesn't make the cut, the merchandise supplier.
Hard to do that in a sustainable way.
There's nothing sustainable about the merchandise supplier. No, there are merchandise items and stuff. And you know what? Even to be fair to our list, there became a point where we kind of, we did scrap a few off. And you're kind of thinking, this is a large list, and it's actually playing into, the fact that we have got these 3 verticals and we do have so many categories. That is actually playing into how we are designing what the experience will be when it comes to actually the ceremony. It's going to play a part in that, because we want to ensure that we keep people's attention span. But we also obviously need to deliver the announcement in some way of those winners and those shortlisted companies, and keep people's attention, keep it engaging, keep it fun. So that's even playing into kind of how we're designing that bit at the moment.
So into the decision-making process. So again, maybe this is kind of affected by, your past experience with shows. Tell us a little bit more about how you're planning on bringing this all together and producing that ultimate list.
Okay, so entry processes will obviously open I think it's the 24th of March. We've got it penciled for. Actually, our entry window is quite long for an award ceremony. This obviously initially it's a new award, so we want to give people the time to obviously hear about it and get themselves into a position where they can fill an entry out. And one of the things that we are asking for is obviously evidence of what they are doing, things like sustainability policies, measurements, data, information, where they started, where they're going to, and that all kind of takes time. So the entry process actually, I think, is around 3 months for this initial year. That will then go through a review and shortlisting process. And then I'm not going to announce who they are on here, unfortunately, but we already have over 20 judges lined up. Some industry professionals, some people with obviously experience within event logistics, venues, supply chain, as organizers, etc., as agencies, as brands, etc. So experience themselves of either using or having sustainable practices in place, and hopefully looking for more of that. But we've also gone out of the sector as well to really look at some bodies and professionals that are, sustainably focused, and it doesn't matter what industry or sector they're really focused in. Their main aim is to make the whole world, us as individuals, more sustainable, and we're going to bring their expertise and help. They're actually helping with things like criteria at the moment, but we're going to bring their expertise in as well to hopefully judge the awards. And then that will play out into the ceremony. I don't think we are the first to do something like this. In fact, I know we're certainly not the first to do something like this, but we will be delivering this year's ceremony as an online and virtual ceremony. There won't be any physical event. So that's something we're working on at the moment as well.
So I know when we had you on the Event Tech podcast, we got to geek out a lot about different types of software, apps, things that we can use on the back end to make our events better. Are there any that you've partnered up with for either these awards or Event Tech Live this year that you feel like you want to highlight? Have you decided on a judging platform or anything like that? I know there's actually quite a few out there.
Yeah, actually, we have partnered with what we feel is one of the best. We've seen a lot, and there's a lot of great technology out there. But our partner for this event is Avesio, and those are the guys that we've actually partnered with for the last couple of years on the Event Technology Awards. One of the great things about their platform, and this is feedback from our judges, is actually the judging process when you are a judge, how the entries are laid out, how the scoring system works. And we know as well, that the system works in terms of that front end piece, which is the person actually having to upload all that information and enter the information that we need in order to judge. That's one of the pain points that I've heard from a number of different people. And we've even had that point of using the Word document back in kind of the year one of like, here's your doc, fill this information out, send us back, we get the wrong draft and all that kind of stuff. So that's one of the things that we've worked hard on, and Avesio's hitting the points for us is a really, really smooth entry process for hopefully those people that are looking to enter.
I was hurriedly trying to look up the episode of Event Tech Podcast that we had, but I'm struggling to find it as we go here. So we'll just
there's lots out there that there's Evelato, I think it's pronounced, which is a really good one. I think the Event Tech Awards companies use that for theirs. There's a number out there, and I suppose you have to find what really works for you and the way that you want to have your awards information collected and presented to your judges. But Avesio is definitely one that we found works the best for us. And we're lucky we get our pick a little bit of those companies, because as with Event Tech Live, we get to see a lot of it.
I was going to say, you've got a little bit of an inside track for especially up-and-coming companies that folks might not be 100% familiar with as you go. Absolutely. So yeah, you get a little bit of the pick of the litter when it comes to that. The other thing that I don't think we've mentioned so far is that this is going to be entirely an online process. which of course jives 100% completely with the idea of keeping it as sustainable as process. Talk about a little bit about the decision to go that route as opposed to any kind of physical awards program.
Oh, right. Well, the decision process for that probably goes right back from the first time we launched Event Industry News, right? So again, me and my co-founder Paul, we came from a print background. We came from a publishing company who published not only a local newspaper, but I think in the region of 15 to 20 B2B publications. So one of those companies that publish a lot of publications, 10,000 magazines in our case, times 15, 20 publications on a monthly basis. And we again saw the waste that was kind of on that side of things. Magazines are produced, they're there for a month, sometimes they don't even get read. So Event Industry News was a step away from that, and a step away to be more sustainable in the way that we deliver news. The Event Tech Awards, we did a physical ceremony because it was actually the audience that came to us specifically here in the UK and wanted somewhere to come together and celebrate. So that kind of pushed our decision a little bit on that side of things. But technology has moved on so much since we actually first launched the Event Technology Awards. There's a number of platforms, as I'm sure many people are seeing at the moment, or researching at the moment, that can offer the ability to deliver really engaging, really great platforms tailored to delivering events online with interaction from the audiences, being able to stream to multiple platforms, etc. So we decided to take that leap and forge ahead ourselves and try a different way of delivering an awards program. This is obviously a global program as well. So again, from the standpoint of hopefully we get companies and organizers from the US and Australia and the APAC region, maybe the Middle East, maybe South Africa. If they're all entering, then it's kind of counterintuitive to ask them to fly all the way from wherever they are to, let's say, the UK for an evening's entertainment and hopefully win an award. The impact just of that alone would actually be super counterintuitive to what the awards ceremony is about. So we hope that we can leverage the technology that's on the market, social media, the network that we've got through Event Industry News, etc., to engage the global world of event professionals. And it's going to be the first time we've done it. So again, we're not the experts at this. We're going to be learning along the way. So if anybody's got any great tips out there or wants to help us, then email me or catch me on Twitter. We're looking for examples. But yeah, we wanted to take that challenge ourselves, that step to harness online. We live our lives online now, whether that's on social media, Facebook, Twitter, or platforms like this. So why not take that next step and see if we can, engage a global community in that way and deliver an awards program?
I mean, it's so funny in our industry that we we love being in person, we love getting people together in person, and yet we also have this kind of a lot, or a good chunk of us have this kind of sustainable heart in mind, and it is rather ridiculous, like you said, to fly people from around the world for an evening of fun. As much as that would be awesome, it's also really, really, really bad for the environment. And so we find ourselves in this kind of catch-22 of, wanting to get people together in person, but also understanding the enormous impact that can have. And I've been on both sides of it, where I've been to an awards program that was live and in person, that then later went to fully online. And it was, it's hard because I met some really amazing people, at that program, and got to go to some really amazing places. And, to then have it kind of turn around and become fully online is like, there's a little downer to that.
I think I'd like to see this awards program almost evolve into both online and hybrid. because I think that's the way that you get the best of both worlds, right? You know, I'm here in Manchester. Brandt, I forgot where you're located in the States, but you know, we're totally two worlds apart. But through technology, we're now connected and talking as if we were okay. We can't, you know, clink the glasses and you know, go outside for a cheeky fag, but you know, we still have the means to communicate and connect and learn about each other. However, you're right in the sense that there is still something visceral about being in the same room with people, being connected to people, knowing that they're there, you know, celebrating together, cheering together, having that social side of things. So one of the ideas that we have played around with, and I don't think we'll be able to get there this year, but almost having pockets of areas for people to congregate within their more location, you know, closer together. So probably their own, you know, network of event professionals within, you know, the region, whether that be the UK or maybe parts of the States, maybe in you know, Europe, maybe let's call it Frankfurt or something like that. And you know, through the technology that exists as well, we can connect up the ceremony element of it, beam people in if there's a winner in that location, if there's a winner over in his location, connect everything up and actually get the best of both worlds. So I think the future of digital events might actually benefit from that hybridization and that technology that's available to connect people up on a local scale as well.
Oh, and that's what is kind of amazing is, I mean, that was stuff that we were playing around with 10 years ago. And I'm to a certain extent a little surprised that it hasn't caught on more, this idea of the kind of hub and spoke type event where you've got the hub locations and people are able to get together and, you know, see each other and step out for a cheeky bag. You know, you know, there's you know, and then still use the technology to that we're not having to fly around the world and that kind of thing. And so hopefully with a little bit of luck, we're starting to give that a second eye here, especially, you know, as we're recording this, you know, a lot of folks are struggling with how are they going to deal with the coronavirus situation. And you know, we're seeing a lot of large scale meetings and events be canceled. Obviously our heart goes out to all folks that are affected in any way, shape or form. You know, we've been kind of struggling internally with the show to, you know, how much more do we want to, you know, put out there regarding, you know, because obviously there's a lot of articles out there, there's a lot of information out there. So we've kind of decided for the most part internally to just, you know, put our hearts out there and say, you know, people who are out there, you know, we're all in this together as one industry. Let's all be here for each other as people need it. So anyway, I don't want to dwell on it too much, but it's relevant to what we're talking about now, you know, that in addition to the environmental impact, you know, we see now that there is an epidemiological impact. You know, that there's, you know, it's so, you know, almost ironic that one of the things that, you know, we do as an industry of getting people together is what's turning around and now biting us as an industry. So we're going to have to reinvent ourselves. We're going to have to figure out new ways to do things and new ways to connect people. Yeah, more power to you on figuring this stuff out as we go.
Do you know what though, with it as much as now is a very tough time already for everybody within the industry. I know that for a fact. I've obviously got suppliers and contacts and organizers and stuff that stay in that time. You know, we should see this as a time of opportunity as well. One, to come together as an industry a little bit closer, but also maybe to explore, you know, opportunities in technology like, let's say, virtual and hybrid meetings. And that's not for me to say to replace the face-to-face, because there will be absolutely nothing ever in this world that will replace face-to-face events. I mean, that is the one thing that I know. No matter how bad this situation gets, events will still be around after, right? People love to come together. But actually, you know, from my point of view, one of the things, the biggest advantages when it comes to virtual or hybrid event platforms is actually we could, as organizers, we could nurture a community, provide really good learning opportunities, great content, great opportunities for sponsors, you know, very much in the same way that, you know, many advertisers do now digitally, is put their brand in front of an engaged audience around a particular topic or a particular publication, etc. And then actually use the ground that they build up with that community and using digital platforms and virtual event platforms to actually then launch great opportunities and face-to-face events for that community to come together and actually connect up with each other, because they've connected up with each other online. So why wouldn't they want to, meet that person that they've spoken to, for the last 6 months online on this various event platforms, etc. Organizers actually could have a great opportunity from nurturing that online community and then launching live face-to-face events that are very healthy right out of the gate.
And that's probably what it's going to be is finding a balance and continuing to explore those new options and expand our possibilities. I've always seen the internet as a great connector. Some of my best friends in the industry are people that I've met, initially online. But there is then something that clicks when you first, get a chance to go out and meet them in person. So it is probably a balance and finding a way to use those tools. And I imagine, as we look at your, look at your winners, going forward, that there will be some connecting opportunities there as well, that you'll say, oh, these people are right in my town. I had no idea that there was someone that was doing that here. And, I want to meet these folks and go out for a drink and see what they're doing and what we could be doing together and how we can partner up and go, take things into the future together. Yeah,
absolutely. Definitely. I think if there's nothing else that an awards platform like the Sustainable Event Awards can do, if that brings people together because you realize those people are in your region and you want to learn more about them, then it's done its job.
I'm sorry, there was a little bit of breakup there on the internet connection, so I don't know if it was on your end or my end, but we'll keep on through. As we start to wrap up, I'm not going to let you escape. I realized since you came on the live show, you probably didn't get asked the questions that we usually ask folks. But before we do that, I want to give you an opportunity to let us know what I forgot to ask you, what is the question that I should have asked about the Sustainable Event Awards that I have not?
But what's the question that you should have asked? Ooh, interesting. I suppose maybe the areas that we're looking into with the criteria. Again, like I said, we're looking at. There's two kind of overreaching areas which we're looking at. One is reduction, and the other is positive investment, and that's come out of already talking to some of the agencies and bodies that we have on what these awards should look like and what they should do, and then filtering down from that. Some of the questions within the entries are going to be talking about energy, food, travel, wastewater, all of those things that affect most of us and most events. So that gives you and your listeners and viewers maybe a little bit of an insight into how some of these awards entries are going to be structured and the kind of the areas that we're going to be looking at in terms of information and data and benchmarking and measurement and stuff.
And we do want to say hello to all of you that are joining us live. Hello, live folks. And not a lot of questions coming in, but that's okay. We're seeing thumbs ups and things like that. So thank you all for joining us. I think I saw our good friend Angie just joining us as well. Hi, Angie. Hope you're doing well. As we do wrap things up, if you do want to throw a question into any of the various social platforms that we're broadcasting to, please feel free to do that. Meanwhile, I'm going to go ahead and ask the questions of Adam that we always ask our guests, just so we can get them on the record. So how did you get into the events industry, Adam?
By absolute accident.
Like so many of us.
Yeah. For my sins, I used to sell labels to companies, sticky labels. And that company, unfortunately, didn't survive the recession and stuff. So I then took the opportunity to kind of go and search out for new opportunities and new directions. And funny story, my now business partner, Paul, actually used to be my boss. He gave me my first job within the events industry. Was actually working for a publication called the Main Event Magazine. Mentioned them earlier. And that publication focused predominantly on the production and delivery and organization of kind of anything event wise that kind of sat outside of a venue. So festivals, sporting events, agricultural shows, that kind of stuff. And it was a very fluid publication. You know, everybody had lots of input. We all kind of, you know, encourage people to advertise and market themselves through the business and through the publication. But we also got involved in, you know, going to festival sites, getting in front of festival and outdoor event organizers, talking to them about how they delivered the event, how they managed it, from health and safety to, you know, working with the local authority to site layout, power, staging. So that was kind of my first foray and how I fell actually into the sector.
All right, and then the follow-up is, if you hadn't done that, what would you be doing instead?
Oh, bloody hell! I think I'd probably be doing something still in the creative side of things. I'm a big technology advocate, as my bio says. I'm super interested in anything that goes online. I hate to say it, I could probably see myself as some kind of like YouTuber or podcaster or something like that. I think I would still be creating content in some shape or form. I think I've just been lucky enough to find a great sector through Event Industry News and the events that we do, to kind of, you know, have that passion and be able to have that outlet within such a creative industry as the event sector.
And then I'll also say you've got some great stories that will again send people over to Event Tech Podcast to hear about maybe your darker tech side. Some things that folks might not be. I don't know how Will does it. I've failed miserably in trying to dig up which episode of Event Tech Podcast you're on. I was able to dig up like 9 other podcasts that you were on, but not my
You've got
own.
That lightning index.
Yeah. I've failed in my Google search kung fu, unfortunately. So we'll make sure that we drop that into the show notes, and we'll get that linked in reference on all.
Sure.
It up. The other question that we like to ask folks is, if you had to, obviously this is still very much a piece in progress, a work in progress, but you know, you can also pull back to your experience with Event Tech Live. You know, what would be, you know, kind of the one tip or one thing that you would offer to event folks that are listening to this if they want to try and start implementing some of this on their own?
When it comes to sustainability, I would think just ask that one simple question to every vendor, every venue, and every organizer or connection that you have within the sector. You know, don't be scared to ask your venue for what their sustainability policy is. Don't be scared to ask your suppliers what sustainable practices do they have within their organization. Maybe that's product, services, or maybe that's just culturally within that business. Maybe they do something that makes them a more sustainable supplier, and then through that, you know, your choices can have an impact on the sustainability of your events. But when it comes to your network, you know, reach out to your network, ask for ideas and tips and knowledge and share. And, you know, what do you do? One of the most interesting, most recent tips that I got through speaking to a waste recycling vendor was about how, especially here in the UK, we recycle or we manage and handle what is classed as recyclable waste. And I didn't realize this before recently, but you know, taking waste that's supposed to be recyclable in a black recycling sack or bin bag versus one that is clear. The clear one can actually be recycled in the proper and most efficient way, whereas one that's any waste that's in a black recycling bag, because the handler can't actually physically see what's inside it, then it has to be dealt with in a slightly different way, because they can't be sure that there's not glass or other dangerous materials in there. Whereas in the clear bag, if there's supposed to be paper and there's paper in there, they can see that. If there's bottles, they can see that. And just that one slight change, which costs no more money, can have a drastic impact on how the waste from an event is handled, and ultimately how much of that actually gets recycled rather than going to maybe the incinerator or other forms of disposal.
It is always funny how just something as simple as asking, or almost kind of where we started with the show of like that one thing that like it's so obvious kind of in retrospect that but you had never been thought of. So asking the question of why do we do it this way and what would happen if we didn't seems to be at the core of so many
Yeah.
good changes. When we're looking to shift things. The final question that we asked folks is just, is there anything, a book, a blog, a product, a service that's really doing it for you right now? Something that's really like, yeah, this is like the best thing ever. It doesn't have to be in any one particular category.
Yeah, sure. So I'm gonna actually bring up the one that I shared with you just before the show opens. So we as event organizers, we've probably got marketing teams, or we might look to do it ourselves. And marketing is one of those things that can be really challenging. We all know that video and pictures and imagery is really powerful online for capturing people's attention. And I always look for small tools or little things that can really help, make a quick change and um, a quick resource for an organizer to use, let's say, video. And one of the things that we found today, I'm just pulling my screen across because I'm gonna probably butcher the name of this, but it's called Kapwing, Kapwing. This tool is like $20 a month. I think you can buy it for $200 for the year. But in terms of the tools that it has, one of the most powerful things that we've used it for today was to auto-analyze the audio of the person speaking on the video and create automatic subtitles. I don't know the exact statistics and figures, but if you look online, the research is that actually a lot of video that's consumed online through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram isn't actually watched with the audio on. It's actually watched with the audio off. And subtitles are a great way to keep your audience engaged and actually get that content consumed. And Kapwing actually does that in a super clever, super quick way. It allows you to edit those subtitles. It allows you to, change the length of time that those subtitles are available on screen for your consumer. And that's just one of many things it does. It allows you to create memes. It allows you to add audio to video. It allows you to crop into video. It allows you to take backgrounds out of images, etc., etc. So if your marketing team, if you are kind of looking at creating that kind of content, or finding ways to make it super easy and super cost effective, then that's a great tool. Because Adobe Premiere and all those kind of things, they're amazing. They're super workhorses, but they're thousands of dollars, and they take a long time to figure out and learn to get the best out of them.
Yeah, I'm just looking through it right now. It's Kapwing, Kapwing, and it's kind of exactly what you need. Just a simple video editor, easily adding subtitles, resizing, trimming, adding audio, like you say, all of the kind of the easy drag and drop type stuff right there. So yeah, definitely gonna have to check that out. Thank you for sharing that. We'll make sure that we'll drop a link to Kapwing into the show notes as well. All right, Adam, you've escaped. You've survived. Really, really appreciate you stopping by, and looking forward to learning more about the process as you go along. Hopefully you'll be able to kind of come back afterwards and let us know what you learned, along the way, and what you were able to, what you're able to, as you start to move on to the next one after that, as you bring things along.
It'll be a while.
Yeah. So let's see. As we record this, the submissions entries open in 12 days, 2 hours, 6 minutes, 35, 34, 33 seconds.
Right, yep.
So submissions open on the 24th of March, 2020. And then, have you guys set the actual date for the awards yet?
No, not quite.
Okay.
They'll be around September, so yeah. We'll make an announcement. But yeah, it's around September time.
Sounds good. Well, once again, there's lots of different categories, amazing levels of different types of suppliers, different types of venues, different types of events themselves, all available here. Check out sustainableeventawards.com for more information there. Is there anywhere else that you recommend people check out, or is that kind of the main way?
I mean, if you subscribe to our newsletter or follow us on Twitter for event industry news, we will always publish information and content and updates there as well. So that's obviously a resource for people to keep in touch about the Sustainable Event Awards, but other event industry news and other things that are going on in the sector.
So if you're a sustainable furniture provider, sustainable staging, theming, set design, special effects, best toilets, if you've got it, we want to find out about it. Be sure and stop by again, sustainableeventawards.com for more information. Well, Adam, I wish you the best of luck with the awards. And I'm really glad to have had the chance to talk to you about it. It's always great to see people innovating and moving forward in an industry, trying to push the industry a little bit, push the bounds of things a little bit, because then you get to come back and tell us all of the things that worked and all of the things that didn't work.
Will do.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you all for joining us on Event Icons. We want to remind you that as of right now, Event Icons records at 5 p.m. Eastern. We're talking about playing around with that, maybe experimenting with some different times. So we're going to have to update all of the show flow information so that I don't say the wrong things at the end of the show. But for now, Event Icons recording 5 p.m. Eastern time, Eastern in the North America, and released the next following Monday. Be sure and check out event-icons.com. There you're going to find all the links to all of the resources, all of the Event Tech podcast episodes that I can't be able to find what episode they're on. We're going to find the links to the Sustainable Event Awards as well as Capwing and the other resources mentioned. You're going to find the transcripts. You're going to find all the ums and ahs available there. You're going to find the links to all of the various podcasting platforms out there, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, all the pockets, all the casts, all available. If there's a platform that you want us to be on that we are not on, please do let us know, because we want to be wherever you want to listen, wherever you want to watch. Thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next time on Event Icons.
Thank you for joining us for another amazing episode of #Event Icons.
To catch all the bonus content, resources mentioned, and an invite to our Facebook and LinkedIn groups,
Head to www.event-icons.com. Also, let us know what you thought about this week's episode. Share your biggest takeaway. Just tag your post with #Event Icons. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on #Event Icons.